Hello guys, and a very warm welcome to this first lecture on the SAS Programming for Analytics course. A course where, starting off from the basics, I'm going to build up your knowledge on SAS and SAS programming so that you can use it to solve, your daily analytics problems. So this is section 1, where you can find 2 lectures. So the first one being this one on course logistics. That's basically what we're going to start off with, some logistics and useful things for the course. So in terms of the requirements, I do need you guys to have a general knowledge around IT. So you do need to be familiar with what a file is, what a folder is, know what's Unix, what's Windows, what's a server. Those are really just general things that I need you guys to be familiar with. I also need you to have access to base SAS and ideally also to SAS Enterprise Guide, because you'll be using that tool a fair bit during this course, and also SAS stat module. So that's an additional module that SAS sells. Last but not least, I do really recommend you guys to take your time to run through the examples, make sure you understand the exercises. If you don't, do ask questions. We're here to help, and hopefully that will go well. Now, starting off with an overview of SAS, it originally stood for the Statistical Analysis System. That's what these are the 3 letters originally stood for. It was devised by a couple of guys at North Carolina State University as a way to basically make their lives easier when it came to running their statistical routines and their analysis routines. And they did this by using amongst others, a formatted file framework, which then they eventually called SAS, programming language as well, which they eventually called SAS. Throughout time, that has sort of evolved towards this suite of products that we know today, and that's, shipped by the SAS Institute, and actually converting SAS in one of the largest sort of software companies in the world. Now, SAS is very much driven by analytics and or statistical applications. So what you'll find is, especially the ones of you coming from a relational database background, is terms such as variable or observation for things such as fields or columns and rows. So it's just really a difference in terminology that really stems from the analytics and statistical origin of SAS. Sometimes you might see also the word case for observations, but that's not so common really. It's a procedural language. For the ones of you that are familiar with the difference between say procedural languages and object-oriented languages, it's mostly a procedural language that's supported on multiple operating systems with several different possible setups. So you could have, say, SAS installed on your local machine, or as is my case, you could have a local installation of SAS Enterprise Guide that connects to a very powerful remote SAS server, so a very powerful server that does all the heavy lifting really. We'll touch upon some elements around Unix and both Unix and Windows usage, but we won't go into an awful lot of detail there. And it's also important that you're aware of the fact that besides base SAS, several additional modules can be purchased. So for example, if you're doing time series analysis, it might pay off to license the ETS module, because it has sort of pre-built routines for that specific objective. Now, in terms of the base scenario and data sets for our course, so there's 2 files that I'm making available as well. So the first one contains 60,000 customer transactions at 2 fictitious retail stores. These transactions are basically made up of sort of customers that walk into store and buy a basket of goods, comprising such and such products on such and such amounts, and that costs them, a given figure. So all these baskets that belong to these different customer identifiers, so these customer keys, when all stacked up on top of one another, make up the transactional data set. Then there's a second data set, which is basically a product master file that's just telling you for each of the products, what's the type of that product, i.e., is it a pasta or meat or what have you. So this is really the base sort of scenario and the base data sets that we'll be using during this course. Just a few words on SAS on the online documentation. That's the current link. If you can't find it or if it changes, just Google it. It's really important that you guys learn how to navigate this documentation, know your way around it, and it really should be a very important point of reference for you guys when you've got any questions on, or when something's not so clear, or just want to check out a procedure. Do check that out. Okay. And the final, or the main objective of this course is to basically equip you with the tools around SAS programming to solve an exercise such as this one, where you might have to find the customers that bought on more than 3 categories, then get, say, a best 30% of the baskets, and then get, say, a store distribution across the stores. Okay, so that's really the aim of this course. So that's pretty much it for this first lecture. I hope it's been useful, and I will see you in the next lecture. Thank you very much.